All right, so now that I have my scatter plot, we're going to take a look at how do we figure out the linear regression equation, and then how do I make it visually show up on my graph. There's a couple important things that we look at here. We looked at our scatter plot of data. We decided that it does make sense to do some linear regression. I have a line that could fit it. Some of the data points will be above, some will be below, but generally it looks like it will fit. So I want to add that trend line, and I want to figure out the least squares regression line, which we'll talk about what that means again in a moment. All right, so if I click my graph, we'll see this chart design option pop up. Right, so we're doing everything in chart design. If I do this add elements again over here, this is how we added label axes and things like that, like a title. I see there's this option for trend line. There's lots of different trend lines we can do. We are going to do a linear trend line. So we're just going to fit this to a line. So I'm going to click linear. It'll take a second to process just because, again, a lot of data. We'll see it put in this dotted line for me. And so there are some things that I want to change about this. And so I'm going to, again, go to this trend line, and I see down here there are these more trend line options. So it'll pop up a menu for me to change some things. I'm linear. I want it to display the equation. I want to see the equation of that line. That's an important thing that we're going to need. And so sometimes it'll hide it. I can see the numbers popped up there. It hid it behind the data itself. So I'm going to move it kind of over here so I can see it. And so once it moves it over there, I can see my equation, right? This is the equation of my trend line. And then again, I can click on the actual line to bring up this menu. So if I click on the dotted line, I can see it. I also want to do some things like change the color. I don't want it to be the same color as the dots. I can't quite see it, so maybe I'll make it red so that it stands out a bit more. And then I can see the data points and see that trend line a bit better. I could do a dashed line. I could have a solid line if I'd prefer to have a solid line, just to see that trend line better. That's up to you. But yeah, so I can see the line there. Another thing that was important for this line is when I look back at the trend line options, there's also this option for the R squared value on this chart. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow it to show me that as well. And it's showing me this R squared value. And so this is something we'll explore more in class. But this R squared value is a value from 0 up to 1. So 0 means that the data points do not fit this line basically at all, whereas 1 means it fits them perfectly. So an R squared of 0.85 is very good. It means these data points generally fit this line. This is a good estimator for this data. And remember what this is doing. So if I am to look where this equation came from, this y equals 0.0202x plus the 12.091, what the calculations it's done is it's taken each individual data point. So we could kind of zoom in and see, like if I take, for example, a data point here, and I have this data point, I find the distance from the data point to the line, and then I square that number, whatever it is. So negatives become positive. If it's anything above the line, it's squared, it's already positive. And what it does is it finds the smallest sum of all of those data points. So it's taken all 700 something points and found the smallest distance that exists when I take each individual point and find the distance to the line, and then I add up all those points. And so that's what this equation is coming from. That's how it's calculating that equation. It's certainly something you could do by hand, but it's very, very tedious when you have 700 data points. So that's why these kinds of things exist, right? And this is what your calculator is doing as well when we do the practice in the calculator. Yeah, so now I have my trend line that I can use for a lot of different things. So I could say, okay, well, what would I predict the stock price to be after 900 days? And I could say, well, it'll continue out this way, and I could put 900 in for X, because that's my X value, the days since. Put in that number for X and solve it and figure out what the estimated or projected stock price would be for 900. So this equation is going to become very, very useful.